Well, hey, I am with my friend Trina Ryan, who gets to serve as a vice president of Shaw Industries, but also we get to work together in the city and just trying to help marketplace leaders really start working together in the city. And we've been having some interesting conversations just recently about how do we really embrace our limitations and who we are, and then, not just kind of rush past that, but how do we really engage those limitations? So, Trina, like for you, when you think about your personal limitations or the limitations of God's people, how do we embrace that, and what do we do to kind of move past that?
Yeah, Nick, that's a great question. I think the first thing we have to realize and remember is that God designed us that way, right? In our own human flesh, as humans, part of the way we're created is that we do have limitations. We're finite because we are human. And I think that's the first thing you have to remember, because you got to recognize that. And God really wanted us to create it that way. He created us on purpose for that. I think the biggest reason, so we can admit and acknowledge the need for Him.
That's so good.
Right? So, I just learned, even in my own walk, in my own leadership, I can't operate and function without Him.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I try to operate outside of Him, again, I'm human. It is natural. It is normal to have limitations, because that's how He did design us.
How have you kind of leaned into not just like you're owning your limitations, but how have you leaned into like the Spirit in the work you do, and relying on Him versus just saying, hey, I'm just gonna drum up my own energy and fight through this, and I'm gonna really embrace what the Lord is doing? How have you done that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been a journey, right? And I think as I reflect on this, for me in my own journey, and what I've been able to do is overcome, because the first thing to do is to get frustrated, because we want to be without limits, but the reality is we are with limits. But I think what I have learned is if I lean into Jesus, right? And for me, it's been about being intentional about my time with Him. The more time I spend with Him on a daily basis, and the more I lean into Him, I'm relying on His strength and His Spirit. So for instance, I'm not operating now out of my flesh, but I'm trying to operate daily in step with His Spirit and being in tune with that.
That's good.
So, and I love this quote in Colossians. In Colossians chapter 3, verse 23, it says, work willingly as you're working for the Lord. So I think it's also about perspective, right? Looking and working through the lens of eternity and not of this world. Because we're really working for an audience of one.
Right.
So if we can have that perspective and understand we are limited. In the book of John, Jesus teaches us and remind us, right? Apart from Him, we are nothing. So we are nothing without Him, but with Him. And if we are willing to lean into Him, stay in prayer, stay in His Word, we can operate daily in the Spirit and not with our own limitations and our own flesh.
That's so good.
Yeah, and that's how He wants us to function.
Yeah. I know one of the things that really encouraged me the first time we met is we were sitting at a little tiny table to have lunch, and you had this giant Bible all tattered up right on the table, and I was like, okay, this is somebody who's really serious about the Word and about that life, and I'm really thankful for you modeling that, especially when we kind of think of that spiritual life for the pastor or for the the professional Christian, but to see you modeling it even in succeeding in your own industry and being able to live that out and embody that, it's just really encouraging. I know there's a million other things we could talk about, but we just wanted to get at that one thing, and so I'm really thankful for you and just the example that you are to the church.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you, Nick. Thanks for having me.